If you want to be considered a true professional in architecture photography, you must get yourself a tilt-shift lens.
Absolutely false. Don't get me wrong, tilt-shift lenses are nice, they're great. In fact, I own 3 of them. But so many photographers, fresh and new to the genre of architecture and interiors photography, are under this impression that they need to get a tilt-shift lens. And that just simply is not true. In fact, I'm going to go over 3 reasons you'll commonly hear as to why you should get a tilt-shift lens, and then promptly blow a hole in each one of them. Let's start with number 1.
You don't lose any resolution if you have to adjust your perspective up or down or left or right. If you do that on a conventional lens, you'll have to transform the photo. So you'll lose resolution and will degrade the image quality overall.
Resolution is usually the biggest argument on this one. Resolution, resolution, resolution. Now, before I poke a bunch of holes into this argument, I want to ask you a question. How do you view most photos these days? How and where do your clients post most of the photos that you deliver to them? My guess is that most of them are viewed on phones, tablets, laptop and desktop computers. Maybe they appear in the occasional printed publication. And there's always unique exceptions, but I would guess that in general, most of our images are being displayed on handheld electronic devices and computers. And in the extreme example of a billboard, most billboards are not being viewed by individuals standing only 5 feet away from them. So with that in mind, let's take a look at something. Here's an exterior of an office building that I photographed on a 24mm tilt-shift lens. And here is the same exact shot, same angle, same position, with a regular conventional zoom lens. It's pointed up quite a bit and the verticals are corrected in post. Can you tell a major difference? Let's zoom in. Can you tell a difference now? My point is that most modern day digital cameras go overkill on resolution. So by their very nature, they already give you plenty of room to work with when it comes to cropping and correcting perspectives. As an example, take the Canon 5D Mark IV, not considered a new camera by any stretch of the imagination. It's a camera with a 30 megapixel sensor that produces images roughly 6,700 pixels wide by 4,400 pixels tall. Now, if you stretch, skew, and crop one of those images to the extreme where it's now half its original size, you still have a 3,300 pixel wide by 2,200 pixel tall image that's still roughly about the resolution of a 4K television. Now take that image and view it on an iPhone or desktop computer. I mean, are you really going to look at it and see it as an image with a reduced resolution and image quality? Argument number 2.
A tilt-shift lens makes you look more professional. When previewing the images with your clients on a shoot, you don't have to ask them to look past converging verticals or skewed horizontal lines.
I really don't like this argument. If you feel a specific kind of lens is going to make or break the perception of you as a professional photographer, you may need to rethink a few things. And if you feel strongly about this one, I think the real issue may be one of 2 things, or possibly both. First, you have some insecurities as a photographer, and/or you may have a shaky relationship with your client. Here's what I mean. When I first got this lens and pulled it out during photo shoots, I thought my clients were going to swoon. And when I would explain to them how these lenses work and their advantage to changing the field of view and the details and the intricacies and the beauty of how they worked, yeah, they didn't care. If your clients aren't professional photographers themselves, most of them would not be able to tell the difference between a tilt-shift lens and a nifty 50. And while I understand that a tilt shift can help a client not have to look past skewed horizontal lines and converging verticals, are you really damaging things that much if your client has to preview images during a shoot that aren't perfect straight out of camera? Personally, during many a photo shoot, I'll let my clients preview individual shots where the verticals converge slightly, highlights might be blown out, and the white balance may be off. They know they're not looking at the final image. They know they're seeing the sausage get made. They know there's going to be some post-processing work done to these images. So why would you assume that your clients can't see past some lines that aren't perfectly level or straight? Because if your clients don't know those things and your relationship with them may be weakened because of things not looking perfect during the preview, you may have some other issues other than just not having a tilt-shift lens. lens. Argument number 3.
You need to get a tilt shift because there's less distortion, and they allow you to get compositions that other lenses can't.
Okay, let's get the easy argument out of the way. You can correct distortion in post in about 2 seconds. Done. Moving on. This less distortion exclusive compositions argument usually comes from people who don't quite know how these lenses actually work. You see this 24mm tilt shift lens? Yeah, it isn't really a 24mm lens. Taking into account the entire lens circle and the entire field of view that's able to enter into this lens, it's actually more equivalent to about a 14mm. In this case, I'm simply taking a frame that's equivalent to about a 24mm prime and moving it around in this 14mm field of view. So a unique composition by going up, down, left, right, or even diagonal on this 24mm, yeah, I'd be able to capture the same exact thing on a regular wide angle lens at about 14 or 16 millimeters. I would just have to do some cropping to get the same exact composition. In fact, you could even think of these lenses as providing in-camera cropping. And if you've ever messed with a tilt shift, you know that if you start to shift beyond a certain point, you begin to introduce more distortion and the image quality may start to not look quite as sharp. You know, common issues you run into with regular wide angle lenses. Now, I do think there's a point to be had about wider angle tilt shift lenses because tilt shift lenses around say 17 or 15mm, you basically need a regular wide angle lens in these single digits to capture a similar field of view, which I don't think are lenses commonly found in the camera bags of many architectural photographers. And if you think, well, these lenses allow you to then shift within that field of view and you can then stitch them all together for a higher resolution image, may I just simply refer you back to point number 1. Here, let's look at an example. Here's a photo of my basement space using the 24mm tilt shift where I shifted all around and stitched them together. And here is the same exact shot using a regular wide angle lens at 14mm. And while there may be some subtle differences between the two, I would assume that most things you'd have issue with in the 14mm shot could easily be corrected in post. In fact, to prove this point even more, I posted this image in some Facebook groups where one image was shot with a tilt shift and the other one was shot on a regular wide angle lens and cropped to mimic the tilt shift framing. I asked the photographers to pick out which one was shot on a tilt shift, and out of all who replied, 36% said A, 48% said B, and 16% said they couldn't tell the difference at all. And the ones who said B were correct. But this does go to show that conventional lenses can be used to create compositions similar to those taken by a tilt shift, and the differences between the two sometimes are negligible. Listen, my point isn't to poo-poo on tilt shift lenses. I love them. Like I mentioned at the beginning, I have 3 of them. They simply provide a level of professional convenience that other lenses don't. It's like buying a super nice carbon fiber tripod with an Arca Swiss head. Overall, there's some great features that provide some conveniences and benefits that make your job more efficient as a photographer. But let's face it, you could take the same kind of images with a tripod setup that's less than half that cost. My point is to shoot down the obnoxious arguments and pretentious comments directed toward newbies that so many of their photography issues could have been avoided had they had a tilt shift lens. That just simply is not true. Photography skills and experience do not come in a box from Amazon or B&H. In fact, if you see one of those arguments used in some forum or Facebook group, feel free to link to this video. If you got anything out of this video and liked it, make sure to drop me one of these. If you hated this video and absolutely disagreed with every single thing that I said, make sure to hit the thumbs down button twice for emphasis. You can follow me on Instagram at Matthew A. Photo. Again, if you made it here to the end, I sincerely appreciate you taking the time to watch. We'll see you on the next video. I can't wait to see the comments on this one. Oh, I'm looking forward to the experts posting entire paragraphs in the comments, telling me I'm completely wrong and have no clue as to what I'm talking about, as if I'm really going to take the time to read those.